prodigal came home to his loving father. In Luke 15, he said, I've sinned against heaven and against you. He said, just treat me like a day laborer. That even would be gracious. He didn't expect anything because he knew he didn't deserve anything. It is that mentality, people, that you know you're a sinner. You deserve nothing, that is the source of a dealing with sin that's part and parcel of spiritual growth. In Psalm 51, David says, against thee, thee only, have I sinned and done this evil in thy sight. He didn't blame anybody but himself. And he said, in effect, God, you're just in all that you've brought to bear on my life. And that's where confession begins. It begins by acknowledging the sin is my fault. Now let me just take that a little further. If you're really going to grow spiritually, you must be confessing your sins to the glory of God. That means, first of all, you see it as your sin. Secondly, you acknowledge it as sin. You acknowledge it as such. This is my problem, and I know that it is sinful, and it is an affront against your divine nature. Genesis 41:9. Then spoke the chief butler to Pharaoh, I do remember my sins this day. Genesis 44:16. So Judah said, what can we say to my Lord? What can we speak? And how can we justify ourselves? God has found out our sin. It's the end of the conversation. 1 Samuel 15:24. Then Saul said to Samuel, I have sinned. I have transgressed truly the command of the Lord. 2 Samuel 12:13. And David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. Daniel 9:20. Daniel, good, godly Daniel, says, I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin. Luke 5:8. But when Simon Peter saw that, he fell down at Jesus' feet, saying, depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord. Luke 18. The publican in the corner wouldn't so much as lift his eyes toward heaven, but smote upon his breast and cried, Lord, be merciful to me, a sinner. So you see, confession of sin is recognizing it's your problem and it's sin. It's sin. And I really believe, people, that that's so very basic to spiritual growth, because that's where you're dealing with the thing that holds you back from growing. Let me go a little further on this. The word confess in the Greek in the New Testament is the word homologeo. Logeo, from which we get logos, means to speak. We talk about logic. That means discussion of principle. Logic, to speak, is part of the word. The other part is homo or homo. When we say something is homogeneous or homogenized, we mean it is the same. It is the same. And that is exactly what the word means, to speak the same. To confess your sin, now watch this, is not to beg for forgiveness. It is simply to say the same thing about your sin that God is saying. What's he saying? It's sin and it's your fault. Confession is not a pleading and a pleading and a begging for forgiveness. It is an agreement with God that your sin is your sin. That's all.